Hi, my name is Ramon Marrades. I'm an urban economist based in Valencia. I would to ask you, how do you think that the rise of electric private car could influence the transport modal choice of for public transportation against private car, and if cars no longer pollute, if it would lead to reducing investments in public transportation and cycling and pedestrian-oriented policies?
Right. Well, that's a good question. I think, well, first of all, it remains to be seen whether electric cars are going to be rising in the next 10, 15 years. I mean, price remains a huge issue, and I mean, it's all about the battery, and the battery is not going to become that much cheaper in the next 10 years, we expect. So, I mean, it remains to be seen. But, well, if electric cars would replace conventional cars, then obviously one of the bigger problems of transport, air pollution and CO2 emissions would be to a certain extent solved. But of course, all the other problems that you have with transport, such as congestion and just simply space issues, they don't go away, and that's where public transport will always come in, I think. And yeah, I don't think that electric cars are necessarily a threat to public transport, but.
I mean, but then there's an interesting question. Which countries will be able to support a fully electric vehicle fleet? And what kind of energy sources would they rely on?
That's obviously, that's the fundamental question. Coal-powered electric vehicles are not a solution. That's very clear. So, if you think electric cars are the solution for future sustainable transport, then you obviously also need to clean up your energy sector. And well, I'm not working in the energy sector, but efforts are being made, and well, I can only hope they bear fruit, because otherwise it's not going to work.
And something else is we talked about the price. Who's going to be able to afford electric vehicles? But perhaps if you had much smaller vehicles, which we have seen from some makers. They're basically individual electric vehicles. This could make a difference, or perhaps like electric motorcycles.
Actually, there are technologies, for example, the hydrogen vehicles, that is basically an electric vehicle, but instead of using the batteries, they use hydrogen. So it's much more efficient in the sense that you can travel more kilometers without having to charge it. But and in the relation of the price, there are some schemes that they help people buying the car with the subsidy from the government.
Yeah.
For example, in many countries in Europe they have that, and also, for example, in London, if you buy an electric car, you can go in the congestion charge area without paying. So, and this can be something that people will start off maybe taking the electric car instead of the public transport, because you're not going to have any added cost. And at the beginning it can be a good solution, because if you have a demand, if you have more electric cars coming, the prices will be lower. However, in the long term, it can be a problem as well.
Saturation.
Yeah, I got two points, I think. First of all, indeed, the price, but also if we talk about young people here. Now, I don't know about you, but doesn't really look, to me, the electric car today doesn't look really appealing so far. So if you really want to hit on that, then first, of course, you got the price issue, but then, if I really want to buy it, then still it needs to be a little bit flashier, I guess. Secondly, as William mentioned, you will tackle the air pollution dilemma right there, big part of it. But it wouldn't tackle the road safety situation, because still we know that public transport is way safer than having private vehicles driving around urban areas. So that just switching to electric cars wouldn't solve that safety issue.
And another interesting question, to profit from your different backgrounds, is to see, does the place that you live in give you the choice of traveling in different ways? And I think it's good to ask it since you all come from such different backgrounds. So, for instance, if we start with Colombia, where you come from, do you have a choice in terms of transportation?
That's the important question because, of course, if as I am an urbanist, when I start designing a tram line or a network system, of course, you cannot enter and serve everything in the city. So first of all, you have to start creating intermodality places where you can go with your bike, when you can go with your car, and then serve with public transport the important nodes of the city. So, of course, I think there's no city that can be served for all public transport, but the things are the modes of transport that you can deal with them.
In Spain, in the great cities, we actually have a good supply of public transportation, but in medium cities and even in small towns that are like replying the bad things about overusing private car, we don't have this possibility to choose. But there is a main problem that most of the users of public transportation are actually captive demand. They are not able to choose to other modal form of transportation because maybe they are or poor or disabled or senior citizens, and we have to be aware that every investment therefore in public transportation has great consequences in terms of equity, welfare, etc.
Okay. And well, the Netherlands, probably best case scenario around the table.
I don't know if it's the best case, but it's a wonderful place to walk and to bike, and I'm really proud of that. Although I feel, and it's just a feeling, but normally the car is on top of the food chain, right? Yeah. Everybody dives away for the car, and in Amsterdam right now, I have a feeling that the bike took over, and the bike is by law protected, even if the car comes from above. Still, you're wrong. Huh? So the bike is always protected, and I mean, cyclists are really taking over the streets and are demanding their rights and just taking things over. And maybe it's pushing it a little bit even. So maybe we should control it a little bit better, maybe. But it's a fantastic country to bike, and it's very safe. Yeah.
And what about in Belgium then?
It's also a great country, of course. But yeah, I think generally we're a very car-oriented country. I mean, you do get around by bus or by bike, but obviously there's always gaps. So if you can go to IKEA by bike, but obviously you can't take the stuff back. So I mean, these problems remain.
Okay, and then in Brazil?
In Brazil, we have a big problem in the mobility because most of the transportation system in the cities are based in buses, apart from the main cities where they have the metro system overcrowded. So when we came to now approaching the World Cup and also Olympic Games, it was a very big challenge because they had in a short time to solve all the mobility issues. And when you don't have a lot of time, you kind of tend to go to the fastest way. So what is being implemented in most of the cities is the bus rapid transit that they have in Colombia as well. And that actually started in Curitiba, but then was further developed in Colombia. And it has been used in more than 50% of the capitals. Because it has a low implementation cost and it's very fast to be implemented as well. So I hope we can manage to get all these mobility issues solved before these huge events.
Okay, and then Colombia to close the circle.
Okay, Colombia have Transmilenio, that is one of the best Latin American examples of bus rapid transit. Curitiba was on a smaller scale. Bogota is on the bigger scale. They were supposed to serve 8 million of persons, the population of Bogota. I think for the beginning, it was going really well. After some years, it was saturated because the different phases of the project, they should take the other transports, like the buses, private companies. So, of course, they should have more Transmilenio buses. So they have a dedicated line, but it was saturated at the end. Okay, but the general concept, it's really good. And as what I was talking, the intermodality issue, it was really important and very well implemented on the Transmilenio, because they had like some feeders to go to the nodes and to the stations of the Transmilenio. So they were taking people from far neighborhoods to the principal network and system to transport in the center. So I think it's a very good example.
Okay, and then to close it off, we come back to you. It was your question. I was watching the other day a video by a German university on their vision of transport in like quite long-term perspective, and they were showing a futuristic city in which you had vehicles that didn't even necessarily look like cars anymore. They were more like hovering or moving boxes, and they were actually multi-purpose. You could use them not only to transport people, but also to transport things. And they were completely autonomous, and also communicating with each other to avoid crashes and just to plan routes, actually, because they would not be privately owned. You just make a call, and it comes to you depending on which is the closest available. Is this like an ideal vision of the future of transport, or do you see things differently?
It sounds like an ideal thing. I think this combination of private and public transport in the same system could be great, but if I have to think in the mid-term, maybe 10, 15 years, what I think that what we have to do is make the private car not necessary at all, but as Thiago say, in some kinds, or you say in some kinds it's necessary to have your private car to go to buy some furniture or transport some things, and in this case maybe sharing car schemes could help a lot. It's like for ordinary necessary trips, it's public transportation, like walking to work or cycling, and for this kind of leisure or specific reasons, maybe it's like sharing car systems the best choice.
Do we still have time?
Sure, quickly,
Okay,
yes.
quick then. No, I think you're completely right, though. I do fear that would require a big change within society. I mean, we are very dependent on our cars. We use them to go to the shops, to bring our kids to, well, I don't have kids, but to bring our kids to school, etc. And, you know, car sharing schemes are all very nice in theory, but how would that work in practice? I mean, you know, you would need the car at 9 o'clock, you would need it at 12 o'clock, and then after work, and it's nice in theory, but it's not so easy.
I agree, but it's hard.
It's a change of mentality in the end.
Yeah, and then
hardest.
you're talking about something more extreme or more radical than just, you know, shifting to cleaner vehicles or.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Well, it could perhaps be there could be a role for IT in there, making systems that are very intelligent and that people can use in a very simple way.
Actually, there are many.
There's something called Cambio, I don't know if you know
Yeah,
it.
they have it here.
And it's very good because they have cars everywhere parked, and then you call, they give you a code or something, and then you take the car for 1-2 hours, and then you put it back.
I don't know which is your perception, but most people of our generation, they do not own a car. They prefer to spend their money maybe in clothes, in traveling or whatever. But if they are living in a city when their family is not there and they need a car, and if they don't have like a friend with a car, maybe this kind of share system will work.
Because you only need it those 2 hours,
2 hours.
Or that day that you're going to visit your family and friends.
Yeah.
And what do you need? Why do you need a car if you're living in town? You have your school and university. I mean,
That's true. Of course, if you live in the city center.
yeah. For young people, I think if you live in most of them live in city centers and and nearby the universities.
But this is leading on to our next topic. So actually, it's a lot of food for thought and very, very good points. But it leads on to our next topic. So let's round off this section.